me come forth with God in my heart to tear Satan apart. When I long time them a tell me pure life.
Welcome, viewers, to the African Healing Podcast with Dr. Sherry Manjara Tomlin Tal. And today we have a special guest here with us in our studio, Dr. Rick Wallace, a psychologist who's practicing in Houston, Texas. Correct?
Correct.
So Dr. Rick Wallace holds a dual doctorate degree in theology and psychology. He is recognized internationally for his work in performance psychology and trauma healing, and he works with clients in Europe, Africa, Australia, Canada, and the Caribbean. In addition to his academic success, Dr. Wallace has experienced a great deal of business success. And over the past 35 years, he has founded, launched, and brought more than 47 companies to profitability. He is now the current founder and CEO of Rick Wallace Enterprises, which includes subsidiaries like the Visionetics Institute, Odyssey Media Group, and publishing, Master Fitness 21, the Financial Brain Thrust, Myriad Business Solutions, and more. Yeah, so here we are with these genetic influences and our environment and lack of certain things, like girls are not being raised a certain way anymore, or they're not equipped with certain skills that are taught to them by their mom. So men are looking for a certain woman, and now they're realizing, something's not right, something's missing. This is, not,
right.
The dating thing is not going good. And these are some of the reasons, right?
Right.
So people have questions, but they need to understand what the problem is. So this is why I invited you on the African Healing Podcast today, because there's so many people that don't realize what's happening and where the breakdown is. Okay. And a lot of it is because of trauma. A lot of it is because of lack of good upbringing,
Right.
A lot of it is, and because of resources in a lot of cases, or I don't know what happened after Generation X. just let me put it out there. But we're trying to figure it out at this point so that people can be more tolerant and be more understanding, instead of saying, okay, I give up on Black women, or, or the Black community, or.
Right. And another thing that I've been very vocal in is the need for the restoration of the Black family nucleus. We go from 1960, where 75% of Black youth were born into two-parent households, to now where it's reversed to roughly 73 to 75% are born into single-parent households. And I tell people all the time, and I end up having to explain myself because, we've been trained to be offended by one another. And so we don't listen for the sake of gaining an understanding. We listen to determine how we're going to respond to how you offended me because you spoke something that made me uncomfortable. But one of the things I say a lot is I cringe every time I hear the term strong Black woman. And people say, what, you got a problem with strong? No, I was reared by a strong Black woman. I've had strong Black, women in my life. I admire strong Black women. The problem I have with that term is normally when I hear it, it's being applied to a Black woman that's doing something she shouldn't have to do, or at least she shouldn't have to do by herself. And so that's a Black woman that's overweighted. She's tasked with something she's actually not genetically designed to do. There's a reason that there's naturally, inherently, universally a family structure, regardless of species. But if we're talking humans, you've got feminine energy and masculine energy. We're designed different. And you being in the field of psychology and understanding neurologically how the brain works, you understand that women, their brains move from left to right, highly intuitive, they feel. They function from that. That's why they drive on being loved and accepted. Men, our brains go backward to forward. We are driven by accomplishment, what we can do with our hands, what we can achieve. And that's where we're attacked most in this culture, in this society. It's stopping us from being able to achieve because it breaks our spirit and it lowers our expectations. And we are visual. And normally when women hear men say we're visual, all they can think about is how you see my body. No, we are visual. We see in you what you don't see in yourself. And that's why when you have a good man in your life, he's telling you, you can do this, you can do that. He sees your vision clearly. You feel it, but he sees it, but he needs what you feel. He needs your intuition. And your children need both. They need the structure and the discipline that a man brings just with his voice. My grandmother was way more of a physical disciplinarian than I can count the times on one hand my grandfather touched me. Ask me who I feared in that house.
Your grandfather.
His voice. It would be like it's
God coming down from heaven.
Yeah, it's like my grandmother say, can I go to the park? Go ask your daddy. Never mind. That's okay. I'm gonna go in the room and play. It was just, and then I realized once I got to know him, because when I was like, and this is important too, so I hope people are listening. When I was 8 years old, my grandfather came to my grandmother and says, I got it from here. You've taught him, you've put what needed to be put into him, and now it's time for me to take it from here. So from this day forward, you do not discipline him, you do not put your hands on him. He's mine. And so about 4 years later, I asked why. He says, if I continue to allow you to be physically dominated by a woman, mentally and emotionally controlled by a woman, you will expect a woman to guide you, to lead you, and to tell you what to do. You have to be willing to be able to stand up and make decisions as a man and lead as a man. You're not better than she is. You're not more important than she is, but your role is to be out in front. Nothing should get to your family without coming through you. But if I continue to let her be the dominant force in your life, you will find a woman who will dominate you and you won't be able to lead and you will never reach your full potential. And so he came in and he taught me that. And that's the way I rear my sons. Hey, I got them. And they understand. That doesn't mean you get to do anything you want to with your mom, because if I find out, you're going to talk. It means that we're going to learn how to be a man, not by me telling you a whole bunch of stuff, but by you watching me. And that's the part of manhood you miss when the man isn't in the house. And I tell people this, and I'm trying to do it in a way that's not so graphic, but I said, there are just certain things a woman can't do for a son. She can tell him all the things she thinks a man is supposed to do. She can tell him. But even with social learning theory, the vast majority of that is observation. It's observing it and seeing it. So you can tell him and everything else, but you know what he's absorbing? He's absorbing your feminine energy. He's absorbing your need to win arguments. He's going to be highly more argument than the average man. He's going to want to engage everything from a place of emotion. It's what you naturally do. And it's what makes you strong, actually. But it doesn't work well for him, but he's absorbing it because he can't see it. And so he becomes this person. And so what we have to understand is when that balance isn't there in the home, women are doing an unbelievable job being providers, but that weakens other areas. I tell everybody, you can take a shoe and use it as a hammer. It's not going to make a good hammer. And eventually it's going to damage the shoe. And the shoe isn't going to work as well as it was meant to work. So what happens is when we ask our women to take on the roles of things that our men should be doing. And then I was a single father, so I was trying to do things that mothers were supposed to be doing. And I wasn't good at it. It's just, and then you have a capacity. When you're at 100%, you're at 100%. Now, if I'm supposed to be at 100% in my masculine energy, and that doesn't mean being mean and aggressive. It means being a protector. It means being a provider. It means speaking properly into the lives of the people you cover. That's masculine energy. People talk about toxic masculinity, and I tell people that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. If it's toxic by nature and by definition, it's not masculine. Masculine in its true function is love and protection. It's a covering. It's a willingness to die for what you love. That's masculine energy. Attacking a woman, beating on a woman, mistreating a child, shooting up the neighborhood. None of that's masculine. That comes from brokenness. That comes from a lack of identity. That's why it's so important to socialize young Black males. Why? Because you explain to them what it is. And I'll say this finally, and I'll give it back to you. We look at the disruption of our teenagers and don't understand. When a young male comes to the age of about 13 or 14, there's this transition out of puberty into adolescence. And what they're searching for is a sense of self at a higher level. This is where they're starting to strive to be a man. But in order to do that, they need to have clarity of who they are. They need to know who they are in their relationship with God, whatever that may be. They need to have an understanding of what they want to be in career, what their roles are as men, how they feel about this. Most importantly, what we give our kids in our homes as parents, values, interests, and principles that govern how they live their lives. If there's frustration and ambiguity in that area, it shows up in disruptive behavior in school and in the community. And then we're wondering, why is he behaving that way? We didn't give him a clear sense of who he was, and he's frustrated because he's trying to figure it out. And guess what's happening while he's trying to figure it out? The world is telling him something totally different than we would have told him or that we should have told him. And so he's trying to decide, am I the thug on the television, or what's being presented in music, or what's being presented in the movies, or what's being presented in the media and the news? Or am I actually capable of doing something exceptional and extraordinary? And what's going to come forth is what's prevalent. And right now, what's prevalent isn't what we want expressed. So then we have these things we need to deal with.
Your final words before we wrap it up today, Dr. Wallace.
I just want to encourage everybody who watches this to search out the best version of yourself. Stop consulting outside of yourself for who you can become, and stop consulting your past. Stop asking your past for permission to become the great person you can become, because the answer isn't in your past. It's in your mind. It's in your imagination. It's in your dream. It's in your vision. And you haven't come close to what you're capable of becoming, but you're going to have to pursue it. You're going to have to be committed to it, and you're going to have to finish. I shared something on social media earlier today that I read sometime a long time ago, that commitment is following through and being loyal to what you said you were going to do long after the mood that caused you to say it has left. And people ask me all the time, how did you publish 26 books? How did you do this with this many companies? How did you do that and that? And it's because you're smart. It's because, no, I know what I know because I was persistent. If I had to define myself in one word and the success that I've achieved, relentless. Not because I'm better than anybody, not because I have some special gift that no one else has. It's because I refuse to quit on my purpose. And when you make up in your mind that you're going to refuse to quit on your purpose, there's absolutely no one who can stop you. So I wish you the best.
You are so amazing, Dr. Rick Wallace. I can't wait for you to join us again here on the African Healing Podcast. And I want you to have a blessed day. Stay.
You do the same. You do the same. It's always a pleasure. And I look forward to coming back.
Yes. Thank you so much. I know you're on your way out somewhere. So